Thank you, Steve.
Welcome.
I had one of those moments where I was like, oh my gosh. I called in the reserves. I apologize. That was my mistake.
That's okay. I should have thought of it. Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't even, in my head, I was like, click the link. Sorry, Rachel. That was all me. Steve just bailed me out. So Steve, I don't know if you want to sit on or.
I'm in the middle of something right now.
I'm fine. I'm good moderating if you just want to. Thank you. So I'll text you when we're done.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Again, I apologize so much. That was all my mistake.
I'm going to
So
stay logged in.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're all sharing Zoom accounts now, so things get a little.
Yeah, no.
Go ahead, Rachel. I apologize.
No, not to worry at all. I got a message from Leslie that she can't make it. So we're just, Steve should still be able to make it though. So I figure we'll just give it a few more minutes and then we can carry on. And I will send there's a way in Zoom that you can register to join. So I'm going to have people do that for next Thursday.
Hi, Rachel.
Oh, hi. And Rachel, just for your reference and all of the reps reference, the meeting is being recorded. So I'll have a link tomorrow to share with you guys so you can share with whatever reps or admins were not able to be here this evening.
Perfect.
Hi, Katie. Good to see you again.
It's nice to see you again, too. I'm going to try and stay in the background.
I think we can give it like another minute or two just to see who else joining. But for those of you that are here, maybe, I don't know if all of you have met Mr. D'Angelo or not, but maybe give just a brief introduction of yourself. And then I'll introduce him whenever everybody's here.
Okay, I'll start if somebody has to. Hi, I'm Stephanie Schechter. I have children at Jennings and at Woods. And I think my son emailed you today to tell you that Sean Smalley says hi or something along that line. Carrie is our tutor for our little pod.
Oh, okay. I'll reply to him. I was a little bit not sure what he was exactly saying to me, but I'll reply to him tonight or tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Whenever, not a big deal, but I'm glad I could clarify. He loves to write letters to anybody, like he's written corporations and things like that when he's mad at games and stuff like that. So when it came down and he was like, I'm writing to Mr. D'Angelo, I was like, wait, for what? So
That's a great skill.
It helps him get out his frustrations. Minecraft is sure brimming with emails from him. So
Sure. Nice to meet you.
I'll go next. I'm Dabney. I've spoken to you, Steve, on the phone a few times.
Yes, how you doing, Dabney?
I'm good, thanks. So I have two daughters. One is at RLMS doing the RLA program, and one is at Dwight doing RLA. My Dwight 5th grader and my RLMS 7th grader.
Awesome. It's nice to see your face.
Yeah, likewise.
Face to the voice, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Hi, I'm Katie Flynn. I am the PTAC VP of Advocacy. So I try and help facilitate these meetings, thank God for Rachel, and just helping to translate whatever information you all need to homeschool PTAs and, oh, my children are now right here too. And whatever you all need, whether it be links or support or information about state legislature, I'm kind of tuned into that piece too. So whatever you guys need, I'm happy to assist where I can.
Appreciate that. Thanks, Katie.
I guess that leaves me. I'm Hannah Chandler. I have a set of twins in 6th grade at Tomlinson. So I'm the Tomlinson RLA PTA rep.
Nice to meet you, Hannah.
You too.
Well, I had a few more people saying that they were going to come, but maybe they're running a little bit late. But why don't we go ahead and get started. The main, I mean, this is just our monthly regular meeting. We have some other things that we're going to chat about. And it's actually a very short agenda. But we invited you, Steve, to come and just, we wanted to have a chat about how we can help you. And, you know, there were some questions that some of the people submitted. So if they don't show up, I'll go ahead and ask the questions and relay the answers back. But do you want to tell us a little about you and maybe how we could help help improve, I don't know,
Yeah, absolutely.
facilitate things for RLA?
I'll tell you a little bit about me. I've been in the district. I think this is my 16th year. I came in as a 6th grade science teacher to Ludlow Middle. I spent a couple years teaching science there, and then I became a part-time dean of students because the student body became so big that it was too many students for one dean. And so I was part-time teacher, part-time dean of students for the 6th grade. And then that morphed into being a full-time dean. I did that for over 12 years, became an assistant principal at Ludlow, split between Ludlow and Woods 3 years ago. Did that for a couple of years, and it led me to where I am now. So I'm very happy to be in the RLA. I was kind of grassroots. I did all the middle school scheduling way back at the end of the summer, out on my back porch into the wee hours of the night. I ended up being asked to help by a friend of mine that was working for the district at the time. And before I knew it, I was doing the scheduling and then supporting it through the year and kind of watching from afar. And as I was working at Ludlow and at Woods, and then the opportunity came up to lead this whole thing. And then I threw my name in the ring, and I'm very happy to, I'm very proud and very happy to be part of this, groundbreaking, not too many schools like us that are in existence. And I think that for all our challenges and the bumps in the road, and you ladies probably know more than I do of those bumps and those voices, but I think things are going really, really well. And there's a lot to be proud of, from not only from the teacher standpoint, but from the students and from the parents at home that are just showing that it really does take, it's cliche, and I'm kind of like that because I'm a teacher, right? It takes a village to really raise our kids. And I think it's really, really showing in the last year. So happy to be part of this. I'm really happy to find out that I had a PTSA. I didn't know that when I came on board. I think it was like week 2 when someone mentioned to me, oh yeah, you got to get in touch with Rachel and Katie. They're the PTSA, for the chairs and the helper for the PTSA. And I'm like, wait, what? I have a PTSA? That's awesome. So I was so happy. And now to see that there's reps and have some contact with you folks, that's really tremendous. And I just want to say, before I forget during this meeting, I just want to say thank you for the help. I know it's a labor of love to help anytime in a school, and people like you that help don't get enough credit, because there's no pay attached to what you do. It's just you want to be part of a community that helps our children, and I love that. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, the first thing we wanted to talk about was how we could support the RLA. And I know we've talked about the book clubs that Mrs. Lamb, is that right?
Lynn Holcomb?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
My names are gone.
We'll figure it out between all of them.
But anyway, that Lynn had sent me all the messages, and we've got, we were able to get boxes out to most of the schools. If not, Lynn was able to cover those, and we've been announcing all of the books that have been coming out. I haven't yet heard back from Lynn this week on how the drives have been going, but I think that's been great, and I hope that I can see how that would be a big benefit for all of the PTAs in the future, and I'm happy that RLA could help with that.
I love the fact that we're recycling books. I mean, what's better than that? So I think that's tremendous. Do you know how many have been gathered up to this point, by any chance?
I don't. Lynn hadn't checked the boxes, and I actually haven't reached out to either of my schools. Okay. So but I'll do that. And I think that would be a good thing to be able to report back to families to say, hey, we've been able to collect some, the 4th grade list that came out last week had a lot more titles that I recognized on it. So I'm wondering if maybe, because I think the fantasy ones they were pretty niche. I hadn't heard of any of those before, but anyway, so hopefully we're able to do something there. And then 2 books, 1 school. I know Leslie was leading that, so I'm not sure if you have any updates on that, but.
I do. I just went through the budget line and realized that we have some funds that Leslie and Monica Schaefer, one of our LAS at our the RLA, put in for a grant, and we're awarded a grant. So that's some of the grant money that we have put aside, and I think we have just about $1,900, just something under that, to be able to flip the bill for that. So I'm in the process of trying to put together the books that we're going to do. We've had a lot of discussions. There's been a lot of great ideas. I think in this time we want something that's uplifting. It's not going to be anything that's heavy. And I think when you're trying to span kindergarten to 8, right? That's a big span. Kindergartners want a much different experience from a book than, let's say, a 7th grader might. So yeah, I think we're working on. I think we're coming almost close to picking our titles. We're going to kind of hammer it out tomorrow. Leslie and Monica and Lynn. We all have our favorites, so I think we're going to try to get together and wrestle it out tomorrow. But hopefully we'll be able to order those before the end of the week. We've been thinking about a time that makes the most sense. I know some of our brick and mortar schools either have done 1 book, 1 school already, are going to be doing it, or not doing it at all. So I think we were thinking about like April time, since that's the heavy testing time, and there's not a lot of homework, and the kids can kind of use it. Probably a fun diversion. So we're moving forward with it, 2 books, 1 school, and hopefully by the end of the week we'll have that kind of nailed down.
Perfect. And let us know how we can help. I mean, I think everybody's always happy to help. I just need a little bit of direction, but it's great that the funding's there. So
yeah, I was happy that money that was left for us, and that we'll be able to tap into that. So that should cover the vast majority of it. So that's
cool. And if there's if we need to reach out to the families and try to raise some money too. I mean, I know that the fundraising campaigns that we've done, around helping families with food insecurity and things like that have been really successful.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that we could definitely, tap into that, and we can definitely help
I
out.
appreciate that. Lynn's got a connection for books that she's been really successful for. We bought some books for 5th grade RLA students unit a while back. She's got a really good relationship. So I'm hoping that money covers it, but I'll certainly be in touch with you, Rachel, if there's something that we need to supplement that. Appreciate it.
No problem. The other thing I had on here that was just my thought that that's also later in our agenda is teacher appreciation. Are there any other kinds of things along that vein that we could help out with? I know the regular or the brick and mortar PTAs are the ones scheduling all of the enrichment type stuff. And, we're trying to all make sure that we are connected in enough with the schools to make sure that we get the information out. But if there's something that we could do that we could help with, or that, if there's any ideas that you might have of something that we could try to take on, just let us know.
Yeah, we talked really briefly about this, Rachel, and I think some of the schools do these lavish giveaways and weekend trips and big baskets full of things, and that's great. And other schools do lunches or food trucks or breakfast trucks. We're not going to compare with that. We can't, and that's fine. I don't think it's really needed. teachers by and large eat pretty good and they can afford their own vacations. I'm more old school, and I would love to kind of bring forth, you know, like a drive for letters from parents, just, you know, just an old fashioned letter of, you know, of appreciation to the teacher for all that they've done this year. You know, letters from kids. We did the Padlet for Valentine's Day. I thought that was tremendous. You know, I think little things like that cost no money, that really show appreciation outside of a, you know, a nice sandwich that's gone in 5 minutes, 2 minutes if it's me, 5 minutes if it's everybody else. I think those things are more meaningful, and I hope they are to our teachers as well. So, I mean, I think anything along those lines, I'd be happy to kind of, you know, root for. If there had to be something attached to it, if you really wanted to attach a gift or something, I think even like Dunkin' Donuts coffee or McDonald's coffee, or a magnet with our to Teach You on it that says, you know, I'm a proud RLA teacher, or, you know, whatever. I think those kind of things are great. You know, I don't think there's any reason to have to, you know, dig into funds anywhere. I think teachers will be really happy with, if we're creative about ways to which to show appreciation. I think they'd be more than happy. I hope they'd be more than happy. I certainly would if I was teaching.
Yeah.
I don't know if, you know, I'd love to hear from, you know, you folks have your pulse on, or your finger on the pulse. You know, I'd love to hear from you folks if you have different ideas. If you think that, you know, along those same lines, if you think I'm off base, I'd be happy to hear
it. At Christmas time, we tried to get the kids for Tomlinson to do signs to hold up that said, you know, like happy holidays, thank you, that kind of thing. And I fell a little flat. Some of them did do it, but not a ton of them did it. But I wonder if it went out in, you know, the RLA newsletter, as opposed to just like your school-based announcement, you know, if we could get more traction, because the teachers that did see them were really appreciative and really excited, I guess you could say. I mean, it's a pretty simple thing. Each kid makes a little sign. You know, they kind of coordinate a time to hold them up, whether it's beginning of class or end of class. And they, you know, I mean, my kids at least had fun making them and were excited to show them off. But you have to get enough traction from a group of kids at least.
Yeah.
But it was, I know we did it also at the elementary school level at the end of last year. And like the kids would do it for other kids' birthdays and things like that. And it was just a nice personal little way to say thank you and, you know, be in touch.
Yeah, I love that. You know, I think it could be videos. I mean, there's a lot of little things that we could do. I just think that, I think that would be really appreciated by the teachers. And Rachel does an unbelievable job with the newsletter. And I'm happy to send things through IC. The teachers don't get a copy of what I send on IC, any Infinite Campus message that gets sent out. I usually send a copy to the teachers so they know what I've said, because it's nice for them to know what I'm telling the community. But they don't necessarily get a copy unless they're a parent. So I can always push that on my end too with families as well when it comes time for teacher appreciation. I'd be happy to.
Hey, that's a great point, because I was like, oh, how do I get it without the teachers knowing? Because I know they're on my newsletter. So we'll have to think about that, because that would be a really fun idea. I did feel a little bit bad about the virtual Valentine's stuff, because, you know, it was announced to them, but I mean, the number for every virtual Valentine that went out, and after the Padlet went out, like I got, you know, we got tons of emails, you know, to the RLA inbox, and it was phenomenal. And every week, if there's praise that comes through the comment box, those I send out to the teachers, and I made like a little outstanding teacher award thing, and it goes out to them as well. You know, I try to narrow it down to whatever the parent wrote about that. And I've gotten responses back on those too. So, you know.
To me too. I've had several teachers mention to me that that, they appreciated. Just those little things, we talk about filling buckets, right? When you're in elementary school, filling someone's bucket, being nice to someone. Those things fill the buckets of teachers that sometimes hit at a time when they're really tired. It's been a long day or a long class, or you just got out of a meeting with me or whatever, and a little pickup those things are invaluable. So, any of those little things that we could do, I'm behind it and happy to help in any way that I can.
Is there anything else anybody has to add to that, Katie?
Can I just ask, just from the homeschool PTA perspective, do you have a gauge on how many, this is really geared towards more elementary, I think, how many of those PTAs are, and I'm going to use this word very broadly, covering teachers? Like I only really know, I'm super familiar with North Stratfield, but I know that over the holidays, our PTA covered those teachers with gifts. And I think it would be maybe worthwhile to maybe get a gauge from the reps if that's going on also. And if that is maybe needed to be more redirected to a collective. I don't know what your gauge is. I'm just curious. Besides just fun, besides just to Rachel, besides just fun, or anybody else, like what your thoughts are on that versus just straight funds, I guess is the question.
No, sure. So I asked that question, and I asked it and I said, maybe I shouldn't have, but I did say, if you're providing grab and go lunches or a food truck, or do they have access to it? Because I know some teachers teach from the building, some don't. I've not had replies from everybody, but I have had quite a few. And most of the schools are covering the teachers that they know are in RLA. There are schools, including mine, that didn't know that they have teachers that are in the RLA. So that has, we've redoubled our efforts on that. And something we'll talk about later is what I did was I went through one of the reps. I can't remember who it was off the top of my head. I'm so sorry. Who was Wendy Papa George. So she reached out and she said, hey, so, the teachers are teaching, representing multiple schools. What if we had, I think like at her school, they did a grab and go lunch last week for the first day, for the first day of school, so earlier this week. And she was like, what if every PTA that represents that teacher pitches in X amount? And I was like, you know what? Why have I not thought about this? So instead of going that route exactly, because that gets a little messy, what I said was, how many teachers are there? And I included special ed. And what if we did, I can't remember what it was, like $5 per school per teacher. Anyway, so I came up with a number. And I think if we can get $150 from each of the 11 elementary PTAs, we'll have enough to do a $20 gift card to Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, something. Plus, hopefully, I don't know, I need to talk to Stephanie about this, but a t-shirt with our mascot and RLA on it. I need to find out the pricing from her, but that's kind of my thought. And I think $150 is pretty palatable, I think, to cover everybody. Now, that does not include middle school. Middle school would be a little bit different because I was looking at the staff listing and it's very heavily weighted towards Tomlinson, isn't it? So,
No.
Tomlinson and Woods, I think. Yeah.
okay. Because RLMS only has like 2 or something. So anyway, it's more weighted towards the other schools. So maybe I would, do like a proportion or something. But that sounded pretty palatable to me as a treasurer.
Yeah, as a PTA president-elect, I should say, when we keep using that word, like we always are like, our RLA teachers covered. Like, I guess everyone went back and traced all of our RLA kids, found their teachers and made sure they were represented. So to me, that's a very streamlined way of saying, $150 to the homeschool PTAs, you know, as a treasurer, is real. It's pretty much peanuts at this point. And it's included in our teacher enrichment. I think that that's a really phenomenal and approachable idea to have in regards to Teacher Appreciation Week.
Yeah, and I think it's also, it's small enough that if they do have other recognition that they're doing, it doesn't take away from what they're doing for everybody to be just RLA, because I know that was a huge concern at a couple of schools. So
I really appreciate that idea, Rachel, because there is a contingency of teachers in the RLA that are not attached to a school.
Yeah.
They were hired, you know, they are attached to the school, just a school, because we have to for
Right.
And on the back end for central office, but they don't have a home school for real.
Mhm.
So, you know, those teachers wouldn't be represented anywhere. If anywhere along the lines you need, because I do hold a list of, let's say, you know, this first grade class has kids from this school, and this school. I have that available at any time. So if at any time you need to know which teachers service which schools, I could make sure I get that to you pretty easily.
That list that you gave, that Leslie gave me, like not even a month ago, that
Yep.
had that on there. So
Yes.
that's what I used.
Right.
Has that
That's
changed?
helpful.
I meant to ask.
Well, yes, because roughly 60 kids went back in the most recent. So yeah, a little bit. You know, that did change slightly. I don't think we lost any. I'm not sure if any teacher lost everyone they had from a school.
Okay.
That would kind of unconnect them from the
Mhm.
school. I could take a look at that.
Yeah.
I don't think. If so, it might be one or two.
Okay.
And I should say, I know for North Stratfield, we didn't count teachers from our homeschool. We figured out which of our students were attached to which teachers.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
kind of back. So
Okay. Yeah,
I think it's
absolutely.
more
I have it.
helpful to say it like that, because I hate to say that, we joke all the time. I'm like, those are our kids. I know they're at the RLA. We love that you guys have them, but those are our kids. We want them all back as soon as possible. You know what I mean? I think it's
Yes.
that emphasis that we're all still a one big community, and it's all of our jobs to help all the students and all the staff.
I
regardless
so
of building.
appreciate that, because I remind the schools all the time when I'm dealing with principals or EPFs or whoever, my office staff, like, you know, these are our kids. Like, you know, these are your kids that I'm holding on to for a little while until it's safe for them to go back to you. So I think it's really important that they're not looked at as, you know, the RLA kids. We're not going to worry about the RLA kids. It's like our kids that happen to be at the RLA,
Mhm.
you know?
How many kids do we have in the RLA now?
So we're right about 550,
Still a good.
roughly 350 elementary and 200 middle.
And
As we
that's still
said.
larger than some of our elementary schools.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's important to note too, when it's a collective number, it's very representative of our population.
Yeah, that's the actual number from, I think I ran the numbers 2 or 3 days ago. So that's pretty accurate. And we will likely have some kids transition back to the middle school in the next marking period. So the first week of April, I think the district's going to make that option like they did with the elementary available for the middle school. So I would imagine that a group of middle schoolers will go back. So that number will shrink in regards to the middle school. But for the elementary, I'm not privy to any other time kids will be going back. So
That's
No.
the size of Dwight, 350, I'm pretty sure.
yeah, sounds about right.
So if there's nothing else, you guys had, several people had some questions. Do you guys want to ask your questions, and then anything that's not covered off, I'll cover off from the agenda?
I just had one related to the 2 books, 1 school. Is that going to be tied into the language arts teachers in the RLA in any way, or is it a sort of a separate program?
I'm thinking that it would be a separate program, only because, you know, we had some meetings today, and it comes as a comfort to some. Like, there's 66 days of school left. Like, ooh, wow, it's summer's around the corner. It's going to be spring outside. It's going to be beautiful. But for teachers, that means, oh my gosh, I have a lot to cover in the next 66 school days, which include, SBAC testing, this and that, the other thing. If we can do this, and again, I'm not tied to any, I've never run a one book, two books, one school thing before. So I'm not tied to it. I really want to talk it through with Leslie and Lynn. But I was thinking it'd be more like an after school kind of fun kind of thing that wouldn't impact teacher instruction time or their
Right.
energy as well. Of course, I'd love to have them partake in it, but I was thinking we kind of run it like separately. But again,
Okay, I was just curious. I don't have a suggestion or opinion.
Yeah.
I know that like
Good
the
question.
sixth graders do book clubs in language arts.
right.
I know they'll be starting a new one soon. So I just was curious if it was related or not.
I think it's a very valid question. My thought was, as I explained, but maybe it'll come around that they'll say, hey, we need a book for our book club. Can we do this as a book club? And I'll be like, that's what you want to do? Sure. So good question.
Hannah, we just transitioned at our homeschool PTA from a faculty run one book, one school to a PTA run. So it's been a little bit of a transition. So if you guys need any like paperwork, we have a lot. I can send some over to you, Rachel. It's really like a guide worksheet with a few activities and vocabulary that applies K through 5. It was helpful. So once they pick the book, I'm happy to help facilitate. We've been doing it for a month.
Great. I'm happy to have this be, a team effort. If the PTSA wants to take this on and have me as a resource, that's fine. If we're going to run it from my end and you just want to be a resource, I'm okay with that too. Whatever makes the most sense, whatever makes it the most fun. I just want something fun for the kids, something uniting. What's better than a book, right? I still remember the book clubs I was in as a young adult, and I think it's a lot of fun. So I've been kind of pulling for it and pushing for it since for a couple of month and a half since I've been around, and I'd love to see it come to fruition. The fact that the money's there and it seems like the energy is there, I'd love to see it become a reality. And I think depending on the book we pick, and again, you ladies know more about these things than I do. I was thinking that if depending on the book that we picked, that people could read different chapters, and some kids that just wanted to just jump on and just watch the book being read, or kind of just lay in their footy pajamas and have different people read. I'd be happy to read a chapter or two. I know Leslie would. I know Lynn Holcomb would. It'd be fun to get a police officer to read a chapter, or a firefighter, or a paramedic, or a nurse, or bring
I know a few state reps who would happily read a chapter or two.
Like that sounds like
I have
a lot.
A few.
Yeah. Like those kind of things seem like a lot of fun to me. And I mean, what better way, right? To celebrate a book. So
yeah, Sherman did that a couple of book things. We do one book, two schools, and we donate our books on. We do that every other year. And a couple of years ago, they had one where different teachers read the chapters. And it was awesome. My kids were like, "Ooh, who's tonight? Oh, I love that teacher." Or I mean, I love all the teachers, so it didn't matter. But it was just exciting to, hear. So, I'm sure that would be great if that's something that we can help with.
Great.
And do what we can. Are there any other questions? Or
I just wanted to, I assume for fifth graders that in terms of any prep for going to middle school, like the school visits and stuff like that, we should just remind our home schools to keep everybody on the list.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those we've had a lot of talks. We know transition across the district is going to be tough, right? Yeah. And it's going to be tough for all the kids in the RLA. Looking at next year, they haven't been in school, for a year and a half at that point. That kind of thing. So that's a hot topic. I mean, there's a lot of hot topics in the district right now, but that's one of them. Yeah. I think getting kids all in school was a hurdle, right? I think that SBA testing is a hurdle. We've just got clearance and just found out that our RLA students will be able to take them remotely for like a week. I was trying to figure out a schedule to get everyone into schools multiple times to take the tests, and that was going to be not a fun task for
Yeah.
everybody,
No
including
kidding.
you folks, right? So we just found out a way that we're working on, and it looks pretty good, that they'll be able to take them from home. So that's a hurdle. So I'm, all these things, graduation, these are all very hot topics, and transitions right up there with them. So yes,
Okay.
that's something that we'll be talking about. I go to every meeting with the elementary principals. I go to every middle school principal meeting. I go to every district
Okay.
level.
So they're not
administrator.
forgetting to include those RLO families. Okay.
No, I won't let them.
Okay.
We won't be forgotten, for sure.
Good.
And can I just mention like the sixth graders? So like my sixth grader never got to do the transition as a fifth grader to, so, should she
Right.
be able to go into the building? I mean,
Yeah.
we're not going to be able to do it in the spring, but in the fall, hopefully, whenever I can,
It turns out, Rachel, it turns out my sixth graders are friends with your sixth grader via the RLA.
Very chatty.
And they didn't get to do it either. So yeah, I feel like it would be nice, like they could arrange a day like at the end of the summer, before
Yes.
school starts, so they could see the school. Because my kids will go back in the fall. But yeah, I think it would be nice to be able to do that for them.
Yeah, the wonderful thing, working in two middle schools, I've never worked in Tomlinson, but I know almost everybody there. The middle schools do a tremendous job of transition, right? That's their life. That's a life they live, right? To that middle child, they get the children when they're coming in and they're these little babies, and then they get these eighth graders that are leaving like little adults, and watching all along the way, because the counselors cycle through. They all see both ends, right? They all get the kids coming in, and they all see them going off. So those people are all very skilled in transition. We'll be talking and working closely with them, and working in the buildings in the summer. There's a great deal of transition that happens in the summer, where the kids come in, they can walk around the building. It might be for the administrator, it might be a school counselor, it might be a school psychologist. They kind of just show them the school, lay of the land. This is how a locker works. All the little things that kids stress about. It seems much less stressful in the summer when you're in shorts and you're relaxed and there's no one in the building. So I envision that this summer is going to be very, very busy with transition things like that.
Does anybody have anything else they want to? Otherwise, I can just go through these other questions I had. So for the remainder of the year, I guess somebody had questions around the schedule change. Do you know when we should expect to hear about that?
Yes. As you know, the elementary schools are the specialist teachers are trying to figure out scheduling for the kids that came back into the brick and mortar school. So that obviously had an impact on what they could do for our RLA kids. So we are officially, as I mentioned in the communication, we're frozen right now.
Yeah.
I see us being frozen through next week, which I don't think is hopefully not too much of a big deal, because 2 of the days are early dismissal anyway for parent conferences next week, Wednesday and Thursday. So I just didn't see trying to rush to make any rash decisions for next week when it's already kind of a weird week anyway. But I'm looking for the week of the 22nd for there to be solidified schedule changes. Basically, just in a nutshell, where it stands right now is we're going to go to a schedule that looks much like we had back before the holidays, back in December, with a likelihood that specials will be asynchronous, move them to the end of the day, use the early part of the day for the core instruction. And what I'm really hoping to pin down is a universal lunch time. So have everybody have lunch from 12 to 12:30. I think it'll make it much easier for parents that are trying to serve a hot lunch to more than one kid in the RLA, and who gets the crusty mac and cheese versus the fresh mac and cheese, right? Well, I think that'll be helpful to everyone. I think it's going to help some of my service providers that are trying to service cross grades, to help my counselors and those kind of things. So that's something I'm really pushing for my staff right now, and I'm pretty sure we're going to land at 12 to 12:30, and then they could wrap the recess piece in the front or behind, depending on, every teacher's got a plan for how they want to use their instructional time. I do not want to micromanage that. I think that teachers have to have some autonomy there, but I think that's a plan that'll work for everybody. So that's where we're going to be looking for in regards to the schedule.
And just to get some clarity, you think that the specials will end up being at the end of the day asynchronous?
That's my understanding right now. I am going to meet with James, Dr. Z, and he had met with the specialist teachers today, and I think he's meeting with some tomorrow, and we're going to meet Friday morning. And I'm hoping at that time he could give me hard answers as to where they all landed with regards to the specials, whether they're going to be all asynchronous, some are going to be asynchronous, or whatever. I'm going to talk to him about what the grading will look like if they are asynchronous. Are they optional? Is there going to be grading tied to them? So these are all the questions that I've been writing down to talk with Mr. Z about, and hoping to have those questions for the weekend so it can kind of go into next week with the mindset of getting a solid schedule to the teachers so they can solidify their schedules and then get it to the parents and the students.
But it would be, you're guessing that the specials won't occur again next week.
Right. Next week, I imagine they're going to be frozen like they were this week. We'll keep the time slot. We'll let I need some of that time to meet with the teachers in preparation for the final schedule. And as I mentioned, 2 of those days are early dismissal for conferences anyway.
Yep.
And then looking at the 22nd as being the new old schedule, and hopefully the last one for the year. I think I might have said that before. I hope I didn't, but I'm saying it now. I'm hoping it's the last iteration of a schedule for the year. I was never fond of schedules, and this year I've made so many that I feel like a professional scheduler. So I'm hoping this is the last go around, because I know it's a lot for parents to wrap their arms around, and teachers to get used to and students to get used to. So in a topsy-turvy year, I'm hoping to kind of level it out with this one. Was that it, Dabney, about the specials? Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
The other question was around fun activities. I think we've touched on that. But if there's anything else that comes up, like, especially once we get really far, like end of year stuff, I know we had talked about like a parade and things like that. Like, I'm sure we'll be in touch, but
I actually have some ideas I'd like to kind of throw on the table, Rachel, and no one will hurt my feelings. If it's a terrible idea, no problem, because I'll have another one behind it, maybe even worse or maybe slightly better. But I'd really like to do some kind of spirit week or spirit Fridays, and just spread it out for the rest of the year. And I don't have any like earth-shattering new ideas for it. It's more like tried and true, like, crazy hat day, crazy hair, crazy hair or crazy hat day. Pajamas, your favorite color. I mean, like any silly thing, but I've seen that in middle school, and you would think like, 8th graders are too cool for school, but they would dress up in red, white, and blue, or who could dress in the most clashy colors, the craziest socks. I've seen it all. And, even if they're pretending not to like it, they like it, right? So why not have some fun? Just because kids are home doesn't mean they can't go through their closet or your closet and come up with some cool stuff to wear. I would love to see some of that really easy, just uplifting, like little stuff happen, whether it's a week, Spirit Week, or Spirit Friday. So I put that out to you, ladies. What do you think about that?
I think that's awesome. I mean,
I think they would love it.
I think it'd be great.
Yeah.
Do you like the idea of a spirit week better? 'Cause, you know, the middle schools do that all the time. They do 2 spirit weeks a year. Do you like that better, or you like the Friday? Or maybe it's not Friday, maybe we pick Wednesday, who knows, but 1 day a week.
I'd rather see 1 day a week personally. Sometimes by the end of Spirit Week, I'm like, whatever, just whatever you want to do, you know. But like if I only have to worry about 1 day a week, it's a little bit easier for me. And especially if it's the same day, then I don't have to think a whole lot about it. So
I think
Okay.
that sounds fantastic. I know all of my kids would do it. They-
Rachel, I think we could incorporate some of that Padlet stuff, right? It doesn't all have to be, you know, dressing up. It could be, you know, go jump into Padlet and share your favorite recipe, or
Yeah.
you know, talk about your hobby, or you know, post a wish or post a dream. I mean, there's a million things that we can do, and the
Yeah.
kids that want to do it will do it, and the kids that don't want to do it, they don't have to feel pressured, right?
I think that's phenomenal. I mean, I think you could, you know, yeah, I think you could incorporate the two and you have endless ideas for the rest of the year. That would be phenomenal. Yeah, I'd
All right,
be,
a different idea. And again, feel free to say absolutely not. But and this is probably more of an elementary idea, and I'm slowly coming back to my elementary days, because that's where I started teaching. I started teaching 3rd and 4th grade, so I'm getting my elementary brain back, and I love it. I harken back to the days of Flat Stanley, right, where there's this little guy and there's pictures everywhere. I mean, what if we sent around like a template or a picture of our R2Teach You, right? And made it like, where in the RLA community is R2Teach You? And the kids could take a picture in their living room, or, you know, getting the mail, or taking the dog for a walk, or if they're lucky enough to, you know, go skiing for the weekend, they take R2Teach You skiing to Vermont or wherever. And they could just simply post it on Padlet. I mean, something a little like that. And again, the kids that are going to love it will probably post a picture every day. And, you know, the 7th grader that can't be bothered will make fun of it and forget all about it. But, and, you know, what do you think about something like that?
I think that's fantastic. You've got great ideas.
I taught elementary for 4 years, and
I have
coming
no,
back, it's like a muscle, you know? I just had to work it out a little bit.
I think that's fantastic. I know at the beginning of the year, I had a big Sherman thing, and I was like, we're gonna shark attack people's yards. And I went out and I bought all this shark paraphernalia, and we passed around shark attacks. So I mean, you could even attach something like that, and we could like make a sign that could go to whoever had the most spirit that month or something. You don't have to make it weekly or whatever, but you could attach something like that that's like a prize that's fun and easy enough to do. I mean, my 6th grader and I will drive around at night and RLA, R2Teach You somebody's yard.
Cops have been knocking at your door saying, Rachel, knock it off with the.
Oh, trust me, my neighbors behind me, we sharked their yard and they had no idea. And they have dogs. And I was like, oh my gosh. But it was,
Wasn't
it was a
somebody
lot of fun.
doing, weren't they flamingoing people's yard for, wasn't there like a flamingo? Is that the same kind of thing that you're doing?
That's the high school.
Yeah, they filmed it, and then there was like one of the shops in town beehives people's yards. Like there was a bunch of that going on.
Yeah,
I even like RLMS wasn't doing anything, so I made a bunch of bulldog signs and put them in my yard for my 6th grader. She was so mad.
Oh yeah.
I'm out.
Don't embarrass me, Mom.
Threw them in her bedroom. I'm like, okay, so it wasn't that bad. But no, I think that's a phenomenal idea. The R2Teach You Flat Stanley thing.
We'll have some fun. We need to have a little fun, right?
Yeah.
We're almost done with this weather, and it's gonna get warmer. We're getting more light. It's been a long year. We've got to have a little bit of fun.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has. The only other, well, I mean, there's 2 other questions that we had. Unless you have any more ideas you want us to potentially shoot down, which we're loving.
Well, I have more, but those are the 2 for tonight. I don't want to push my luck.
Okay. So I guess if specials do come back and they are synchronous, would it be possible to have allow for students to be exempted from being on camera during PE? Like, is there some way for that to, like, be there for attendance and then be able to shut their camera off? I think it's just a concern that a couple of the parents had.
Yeah, would you mind explaining a little more about, is that concern from elementary, from middle, or both?
It seems like it's more middle school.
Okay.
Um,
I fielded some phone calls from parents that
Mhm.
that asked similar questions like that. I would have to talk to James or Zakia or Mike about that. I have no problem bringing that to them. I will bring that to James anyway, because the middle school will have their PE staying synchronous.
Yeah.
So I will find out either way. I'll find out what they say about that. I don't have a problem with it. I'm thinking of the two teachers that teach middle school PE. I can't speak for them, but I don't think they would have a problem with it. I guess they wouldn't be able to see what the student was doing, but I think it seems to me like some kids were uncomfortable videotaping themselves jumping around. If you're a girl or
Right.
stretching or whatever it was. And I'm thinking back to my daughters. I have two high school daughters now, and I can't see them being too happy with that either. So I'm happy to talk with Mike and Zakia about that.
That was a conversation that you and I had a few weeks ago, Steve. And, I have
That's right.
a fifth grader and a seventh grader, and I'm going to speak for myself and a couple of other parents that I've talked to. It's a lot of the concern stems from all of these years of trying to teach our children not to show their bodies, not to be physical on the internet. And I just think it can be a confusing message. I think it goes beyond them being embarrassed or body conscious. I think that from a parent standpoint, it's hard for me to it just seems like a conflict. It's like we're telling you, and especially because they don't necessarily know their teachers, and they certainly don't know kids from other schools maybe. And I do think it's more of an issue with the girls. If I could offer up just one other thing, if it does become a problem, is there a way that the kids can be exempt from PE if the parent provides some kind of affidavit that they're doing some other kind of regular exercise? I have one daughter who horseback rides, and she can do that in COVID, and she does it every day. And then my other daughter hikes with me almost every day. So, if there's an option to do that, where the parent can really take responsibility for their physical exercise, I think that's worth exploring as well.
Dabney, I'm thinking back to our conversation now, and that's pretty much what we talked about. And I did bring that forward, my recollection is that they were going to circle back to me, and I think it just got lost in the weeds. But I'm
okay.
I'm happy to bring that forward on Friday.
Yeah,
and get back.
And I don't mean to rush you.
No, that's fine.
My seventh grader is concerned because she's a big fat F in PE.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I just, by the end of the year, just from the sake of grades, but I know that there are other parents that have shared the same concerns with me about their middle and elementary school kid. I mean, my fifth grader, has the same issues. So
yeah, and I think that question's being asked from not just the RLA, because I remember when I was in the buildings last year, there were similar questions that were asked as students were taping themselves doing things and then sending videotapes to teachers. And I know there was a lot of
for whatever it's worth, there was also a story last year of, I think it was fifth graders, but in PE they were climbing the rope in the gym, the big rope with the knots, and they were climbing up, and some kid pulled out I think it was a boy, pulled out their cell phone and took a picture or video or something up a girl's skirt. So,
I'm with
the
you.
The issue is dicey to begin with. So
anyway. Yeah, I'm happy to find out a real
great.
solid answer for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thanks for
the only thing I ever hear about the PE class is one child who tends to snack during PE class on camera.
Lettuce or carrots.
No, not nutritious snacks, but apparently, and then the teacher will be like, hey, so-and-so, why don't you wait until we're done doing these sit-ups to eat those chips?
Put those Doritos down.
Yeah.
I'm sure teachers are seeing it all, for sure,
Yeah.
right?
Oh dear. I can only imagine what they see in I finally cleaned up my playroom because you couldn't even walk in there. And I was like, guys, you gotta stop taking people down there. Like, they think I'm a slob, and it's not my stuff, it's yours. So I spent 5 hours. I did it. It's clean. And I got rid of a bunch of stuff. So
There
anyway.
you go.
The last question is the $1 million question, and we'll ask it tonight, and I'm sure next Thursday night it will be a massive topic, is any insights on RLA for next year. And we can park it and say, let's talk about it next Thursday, but whatever.
I'm happy to share what I know. When I signed on a dotted line for this year, it was made very clear to me that this will end the last day of school, and that this is not a future in the RLA, and that was fine for me. With that said, I learned a long time ago to never say never. You ladies probably know there's a petition going around to keep the RLA for next year. My guess is from the state, there's going to be mandates of having some sort of remote education for children, whether that looks like an RLA or that looks like students remoting into a brick and mortar classroom like some kids are doing now. I can't speak to that. I don't know, and I haven't heard anything to the contrary from anything from central office. So your guess is as good as mine, but I stand by what I say. Just when I think I know something, especially in this year, it changes. So we'll see.
And Rachel, I was actually gonna take a minute just to speak because my hands are kind of in it locally and on a state level. There was a bill introduced, it's SB 977. I actually linked it in the chat. There was public testimony on it on Monday. I don't know if anyone got a chance to tune in. I was on listening. And my feeling is similar to what Steve was speaking to. It seems very evident that they're doing an analysis and there's going to be some kind of decision made by July 1st on what that mandate looks like. I can't imagine. I tried to explain this on the internet and I will never do that again. But the way that remote learning is operating right now is being codified under the emergency action. Mm-hmm. So once that goes away, there's no law that kind of gives remote learning a place to live. So I've been watching, and I think we spoke to this at the first meeting. We did massive research about the RLA at the beginning of the year, and we couldn't find a comparable public school service. Now, we found public schools or states that third party their remote learning option, but there's really nothing similar to this. So my advice, and I'm gonna send this out in some kind of email, is just to have parents email their experiences, not only to our local officials, but also to state legislatures. I think, and I said this at the first meeting, I think that every dollar spent at the RLA was a dollar well spent. And I think the more that you guys can testify to that, literally and figuratively, will help all around. Like I said, I can't, but as Steve said, there currently in this budget is not a dollar for remote learning. So as we talk about this budget and there's no contingency, there's no rainy day, if that needs to happen, it's going to be a really tough. So as parent advocates, when we talk about, budgets being tight, it's tight, and I think it's reflective. So the more advocacy all around and specificity to your advocacy. So I think even more important, the RLA is phenomenal, but I'm even concerned just about a remote learning option. What you guys want it to look like, if it's a third party option or if it's a streaming, which a lot of people have been really against. So just the more letters and advocacy and testimony to this experience, I think would be powerful. but you guys have been doing that so well. I'm really preaching to the choir.
I think we're going to hear a lot about what that's going to look like
Yeah.
as we enter
Now,
year.
if you guys want to take a peek, Massachusetts just announced theirs because they have been running it like that. And we don't usually follow Massachusetts, but it's a good indicator of how a different system is running. South Carolina does it like that. Florida does it like that. A few other states that we've looked at just to get some reference points, but I would just tell people, I linked the bill in the chat so you can read through it just to get an
I
idea of
opened
what.
it. Thank you, Katie.
Yeah.
I'm gonna read through it. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I watched the testimony on Monday and it was a lot of educators and not a ton of parents, which I think you need both to hear what this experience is. So the more testimony, the better. But yeah, if anyone has any questions on legislative stuff, I'm usually trying to keep up. It's a lot this time of year.
Katie, who would you recommend emailing? Like Kristen
Jen,
McCarthy-Vahey?
yes.
Or
I would say our entire
Okay.
legislative body. So that would be Kristen McCarthy-Vahey, Jen Leeper, Laura Devlin, Tony Huang, the governor. No one ever emails just like straight. I tell people all the time, I'm like, email Lamont. Like, don't even get in the middle of it. Like, bother him, tweet at him, like get on Twitter. Like, that's where they really, if you want to, that's where it all happens. And it bothers, like, I hate to say it, you guys know this, the squeaky wheel is what turns the spoke sometimes, which is sad, but in education these days, it is kind of where we're at. But that would be I wanted to make sure you guys had seen that bill. And if any more testimony comes up, I'll make sure and note it for you guys.
Is anybody talking about regionalizing remote learning? Because I think that, yes, people are, because it may be the only way to make it not just a live stream into the classroom, but if...
I'm going to say hypothetically, if I was going to be emailing as a parent, we are neighbors to districts like Westport and Weston, which are relatively small. And I'm sure it would be much more cost effective and efficient to streamline this service like that going into next year. Like I said, just looking at the dots of this budget, like strategically, you start to see what's your path. And I can say there have been several. I've talked about that with other people. I'm like, could that happen? How do you happen? Regionalization is such a hot topic
issue right now. It's like,
but for this population, it would be a lifeboat. It would be a buoy, I think, next year. And really we have quality schools. It could be a really, like I said, email the BOE. Email everyone. That's what I always say.
I email everyone, but I'll add that. Steve knows I email all my RLA ideas, like that magnet school idea and things like that. So,
anything like that, I think is helpful just to stick the idea in people's head of like, oh, that's how, because that could be done through grants. Once you start sharing costs, it all of a sudden becomes a lot more doable.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Katie.
So I'm pretty naive when it comes to budget related things. And I'm just looking for a very general answer, but is the RLA that expensive? Like, I understand obviously extra teachers may be needed, but you're also pulling a lot of existing teachers in the school system. So you're already paying them. But I guess what are the other, and obviously administration and so on and so forth, but what are the expenditures like, I guess, besides the teachers? And I don't need figures, I'm just wondering, like, does it cost as much as running an elementary school? I have no idea.
I mean, obviously Mike would be the person that would answer this, but outside of the teachers, is like there's no buses, there's no heat. The heat's happening at your house. The food is at your house, and if the kids are picking up food, they get food in the school anyway, so can't really count that as an extra. As you mentioned, a great deal of the teachers did come, from the existing schools. So I don't know what that bottom line is. I'm guessing that Mike does, and will probably, be asked in the future about it. So I'll let him take that. But I don't think that it's nothing like an actual school that has insurance and all the things that get wrapped in a building. So.
Yeah, Hannah, the largest cost, there was 26 additional teachers hired. And then you also saw the collapse of sections at elementary schools to move teachers. So it's really hard to estimate like a dollar for dollar. And I think it's almost dangerous to do it because I don't think it's representative, but I think it's naive to say it was cheap. It wasn't. Fairfield made an investment, a multi-million-dollar investment in our remote learners. So I think it's important to highlight that and also look at that availability of staff, because we won't be or I'm going to say this because Steve is very good. We hope we are going to be in a full return model next year. That's the plan in the budget. That's why the RLA is not reflected in it. I don't know if that makes sense. And they really can't budget for anything that isn't codified by law. Like until it's codified and legal, I don't even know if they can put it in. Like from my stand, like just, and I'm not on the BOE, but just following it, I'm not even sure legally they could right now. I'm not sure, but those would be really good questions for Mr. Cummings because he would be much more tapped into it than I would be. But that's just general.
My guess is that it could, if they wanted to be like on their own and really forward thinking, that they could. But again, that's just a guess from me, kid. I don't know exactly. I would defer.
I'm curious, like in your introduction to the idea of regionalization, which I think is a good one. I feel like Fairfield is very unique in that we've had this, and I feel like there's a certain population that it would be beneficial to have something like this moving forward, whether your child has physical issues or mental health issues. There's got to be a population that would really benefit from this, and could Fairfield be a model for other towns to do similar things, since so few other places had something like the Remote Learning Academy. And then that leads into your idea of regionalization too, Katie. Like, is this something we sort of Fairfield sells to other towns, to do together?
I wouldn't be shocked if once remote learning option is mandated again, that starts to happen. I don't know if that makes sense. It's kind of like what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Do you need the law? Like what seeing that, because last year, I don't know if you all remember, they didn't set out the remote learning standards till like late August. Like it was like 2 weeks before school started. I remember we were all freaking out waiting for it. So the fact that you see July 1st is actually slightly optimistic. I think that they're really trying to do a good job of data analysis and getting on it for at least the state legislature. That's faster than I've seen in a while.
Yeah, and there's a huge difference between July 1st and August 17th.
Oh yeah.
Huge. So we'll see.
I was on the edge of my seat last year. I had already looked into homeschool programs. I was freaking out.
And I do think the district will be
not going to send out
forward motion
tomorrow now. At this point. Yeah, I'm going to send out a form in order to ask questions of Mike next week. And I think these are phenomenal questions for him. I would love for these to be, asked. And I know I've spoken to Jennifer Leeper, who I believe has also spoken to Mike Cummings about the, sorry, I get so swollen at this time of night. But I talked to him about the regionalization because there is something out there that's already formal, but not specific to remote learning. That there's a vehicle to have this done. So I will look that conversation back up, and I will make sure I ask that question of Mike Cummings in my comments for next week. Steve, I promise you like 45 minutes to an hour, and now we've gone over that. And ladies, we normally keep it pretty short. So I was just gonna ask for unless there's any other questions, I was gonna say we just move on and get a spiritware update. And Steve, you can stick around or you can drop off, whatever. We just have spiritware, teacher appreciation, and then we're done.
I'll hang around if you'll have me. If you prefer for me to leave, I can go
No.
change the comfy clothes and watch a hockey game. But
Join us.
I'll stay there. Can I just ask
Join us.
Stephanie?
Yeah.
Stephanie, did you get the file I sent today?
I did. And
Was
I
that
sent,
adequate, or you need something different?
I think it's good for right now. He'll let me know if it's not. But I have reached out to my buddy who owned the former Soccer Post. They've actually closed down the shop, but now he's doing this full time, which is great. And he's going to prep up some samples of spiritware for us in the next few days. And his turnaround is really fast. Like, he'll have a website for us probably in a week where people can go online and do the ordering, and then we'll have it turn around. And usually the turnaround is about 2 weeks before people get their stuff back. So he's quick. We don't have to purchase anything in advance. It's all, so if one person orders one t-shirt, he'll make one t-shirt. And so that's great. I looked up, so Jennings did 5th grade teachers when my son Harry, who's a 7th grader now, was in 5th grade, and he did all the t-shirts for that. And we charged $20 for them and made an $8 profit. So in going back to your conversation about t-shirts for teachers, and we chose like the athletic Under Armour feel material, and it was front and back, which usually costs more in the kind of world. So I think we could probably do like faculty teacher t-shirts or things like that for under $10 a shirt pretty easily.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So he's great. He's super easy to work with. Not going to leave us high and dry cash wise. So if everybody's okay, I'll send out his samples to you guys and see what you guys think. But like, he does everything from scarves to pajama pants, which for RLA I think would be perfect because I sure see a lot of that in my house. And I think that we can move forward on that. One question I did have was, do we want to say RLA, or do we want to say Remote Learning Academy, or do you want to say like Fairfield RLA? Because those are the kinds of things that we need to kind of work out in advance. So if your kid was going to wear it, what would your kid want it to say?
My kid would definitely want RLA.
I think it should definitely say Fairfield.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
that could be cool. Yeah.
Fairfield
All right.
RLA. Yeah.
All right. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, well, that's phenomenal. And so I think with that pricing, if I moved forward and asked every PTA for $150, I think that would put us pretty safe. And were you able to ask about my idea of, could a parent go on and buy like an adult shirt for a teacher?
Yeah. He can do all of that kind of stuff. He can make it really easy for us. So yeah.
So my other idea was like, could parents go on and buy a shirt sponsoring it for a teacher? So that would require me asking you, Steve, to have all the teachers give us like a shirt size once we get the type of shirt confirmed. And then we could hopefully raise some shirts that way. And then whatever we get back from the PTAs, and we could use that to, if there's some money left over, we can do something else. But that would be.
Yeah, that's super. We could put together a Google Doc.
Yeah.
And I'll just send an email to the teachers and let them jump in and put it and enter them. That's
cool.
Get that done in a day.
Yeah. And what he'll do is in the shop, he'll make an entry for teacher t-shirt gift or, something like that. And then people can just, order a t-shirt. And if we end up with more t-shirts ordered, then we have teachers, then we have more money to do Dunkin' Donuts gift cards or something like that. So, it's win-win. So I think that's a great idea. And I think that's the easiest way to do it, is to just have that tab there, because he was like, if we
Mhm.
get into like, I want this to go to this teacher, he's like, it's a mess.
Mm-mm.
Because you'll have 40 t-shirts for
Right.
Mr. D'Angelo and no t-shirts for the PE teacher,
Right.
kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah. All right,
No,
perfect.
I was hoping to do generic.
Yeah.
At our PTA, we do sponsor a teacher. And we were able to build that into Member Hub. So that worked out really well. So we were able to sponsor most of the teachers. We were able to get sponsors from parents, and then as a PTA, we paid for the rest. I don't know if that's against PTA rules. That one I ignored. Normally,
Rachel, we
I'm
do
all
it too.
for that. Okay,
Rachel,
good.
we do it all the time.
Good. I don't want to be the only one doing it. I try to
We
follow
do it
all the
constantly.
rules.
We did it for masks at the beginning of the year. We had an option
Yeah.
where it was like buy a mask for your child and for
Yeah.
a teacher. So we were able to give the whole staff masks at the beginning of the
Oh,
year.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like little things. Parents want to help. I always
Yeah.
encourage people.
Totally.
Parents usually buying a t-shirt. I'll buy a teacher, call Alexis at this point.
Right.
If I can afford it.
Trust
Rachel,
me.
should I send that out to teachers? Should I start getting their t-shirt size regardless or not yet?
What do you think, Stephanie? Just go ahead and get it.
I say go ahead and get it. I don't think it's going to be a problem.
Okay.
So I think it's going to be a really easy thing to get the money to have it done. So
Great.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So, and I've already talked about all the teacher appreciation stuff, and Steve gave us the his 2 cents on it, which is phenomenal. So the only other thing is the meeting for next Thursday came about very quickly. I just emailed Mike Cummings on Friday and said, hey, what about this? And he said, yep. He said, I'll come back to you on Monday with dates. And Saturday, he came back to me with dates. And I was like, okay, well, here we go. But I think it'll be a great thing. I'll send around a registration link with Zoom. You can do it in there. We're going to use Sherman's Zoom. And there's only 100 participants allowed, but I don't think we'll get that far. I mean, it'd be pretty amazing if we did. And then I will also send around a link. I've already sent it to Katie to look at that will have, it's a Google form that will, you select kind of the leading topic of your question and then a long paragraph for your question. And I'm asking and trying to be clear in it that you only submit one question per form, but you can submit multiple forms. And then I'll have that open from tomorrow until Monday, close it down, collapse it, and email it out to Mike, Steve, Dr. Parrish, Dr. Zavajanzik, whoever else Mike wants to be on it. That way they have it ahead of time. And then, if we're able to get to all of the questions and we have time left over, I'm trying desperately to keep that to like hour and a half, 2 hours max. Then I would open the floor, but and Katie is going to be helping me to moderate that. So I hope it's well taken up. I think by the email traffic and Facebook traffic and all that I had on Friday, I just felt like, what if I put it out there? I didn't expect it to come together so quickly, but I'm happy that it did. And I hope that everybody can just feel more heard and comfortable after Thursday, and we can all just, move forward and finish out the year. But if anybody has any other ideas or anything, feel free to reach out. But my goal is to get all of that out tomorrow morning, kind of blasting it out to all of RLA, just like the save the date. So hopefully it'll all go well. I'm very excited about the spiritware. I'm very excited that we've got some stuff coming out that will be fun. My daughter, my 6th grader, and some of her friends, have started a petition.
Oh, yes.
To bring back half-day Wednesdays
Half-day
to middle
Wednesdays.
schoolers.
My son signed it. He's very excited about it. He's like, this feels so great to be active and engaged. And now I know why you go to all those meetings and watch those fair TV things. So thank you to your daughter and her friends, because it was a great lesson in advocacy.
That's right.
Well, I turned it into also tonight, as we were discussing it at length, a discussion in why we're in school as many hours as we're in, and what that looks like, and all those, and just asking lots of questions. So, she's like, I told people they can't be toxic, Mom. I'm like, okay. At least she did that. And she's like, and some of the messages that people are putting in there, Mom, we had to change it to where you couldn't edit it and you could only make suggestions. She's like, oh, people are rude. I was like, yeah, they are.
I'll take her on my advocacy committee. She thinks she'd come.
Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding me? Give her the
I love it.
There's a whole
I wish we
group
had
of sixth graders.
Yeah.
I wish we had more student government starting in elementary school. I was saying that the other day. We used to have little town councils, and once again, I would never put anything more into staff, but I was like, how can we do that? So important for them. Good for them to have agency over their own daily life. Good for them. Good for her.
Yeah. I mean, it's really awesome. And like, I've been I never would do this, by the way. But she's been very active, and she's been very vocal, and she's been very much an advocate for herself all year. And I will say part of the benefit of RLA is I have been able to watch how confident all of her teachers throughout the years have made her, and how that has translated into her feeling like she had agency and she could respectfully speak up and she asked to be put on newspaper before it was even out there. And she reached out to the principal, and I was like, you did? Good job.
It's
I
great.
love that stuff.
Yeah, I love when I receive communications from kids, because I love the advocacy piece. I love the whole thing behind it, and just getting the email from Ben today. Those are the kind of things. I received several emails after I sent out that the specials were frozen from kids that said, "Oh no, I'm going to miss my music teacher, and art was my favorite part of the day." And I'm like, my heart breaks. And they're like, "Please put them back." I'm like, yeah, I wish I had the power just to. Oh sure, I'll put those. I'll make that decision. I mean, well, I just think it's tremendous when kids feel empowered to use their voice and be, kind of, be trailblazers and try to make their own way and be advocates. I just think it's tremendous. So I love that about your daughter. That's awesome, Rachel.
Well, I think
I heard about it going around. I heard about the petition.
I think it speaks to how wonderful all of the teachers are throughout the school system, that they give these kids such confidence and the ability to speak up for themselves. Like, I just love that. And being here with all of them, I've been able to watch that. And that's been a bright spot this year. So anyway, so thank you so much. And thank all of your kids for signing this lovely petition that's going around. But it's been a year for everybody. And
feels like 2, but it's only been 1.
But anyway, all right. Well, that's the only other meeting I have on the board. I think we'll talk about April. I mean, because we've got spring break in there, and I don't want to jam too much through, but I do want us to be prepared for Teacher Appreciation the first week in May. So
Rachel, I'm going to run to let
you
guys wrap up the way you want. I don't want to infringe on your meeting. I really appreciate you inviting me and us kind of thinking together on some of these things. And I'm so happy to partner with you as much as you'll let me. And I appreciate everything. So have a great night. Talk to you all soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, I am not keeping you. That was it. That was all I was gonna say, but I wasn't gonna tell him that. So I'm, we'll talk about a meeting in April. Katie, we talked about potentially having a meeting where you kind of go through the advocacy stuff and what
Yes.
we can do. I think that would be
I
phenomenal.
think we'll have a better scope of it. This is where the budget and the state all kind of like
Yeah,
interweave, where you're like watching what's going on. Like I said, I would just I think continue to add, but I think we should talk about it more in April.
okay.
Honestly. But yeah, and then on the homeschool PTAs, let me know how you want to disseminate that to homeschool PTA presidents. I am happy to lead the charge or CC me, and I'll happily push people.
Well, I was thinking that I would, I'll go ahead and send out that email, and I will send it to all the presidents and all the reps.
Yep.
And I will CC you on it, and we'll go
Yep.
from there. I mean, I really think 150.
I think the
sounds
elementary
right.
schools, yeah, I think the elementary schools are going to be fine.
Yeah, the
like I
middle
said, I
school
know-
I haven't touched yet because it's I'm not.
It's a different beast. It really is. From funding to parent involvement to, I would say
It's
start with the
weird.
elementary schools. Yes, it's so different. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm so not in it, but I know even, I'll speak for just our PTA and treasury piece of it. We just did our budget yesterday and we're in better shape than we thought we would be. So I think most schools are going to be able to figure it out. That would be my input.
Well,
Like I said, $1,000, I'd be like, okay, we'll figure it out. But 150, you're talking about,
Well, I mean, I know at Sherman, like
Yeah.
I said, we have 750, and that's committed. And I've talked to Sean a couple of times, and she's like, "Take it, just take it." And I'm like, "Well, but let us figure it out." So, like, if we can't figure out middle school, and if our T-shirt idea doesn't cover all the middle school teachers, there's funds there. We can tap into that.
And we've said too, PTAC has, grant, I mean, we will make sure in some capacity that the RLA is taken care of, whether we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I said, I'm one of those people, the other day I was like, we need cones. I'm starting to GoFundMe. They were like, you can't do that. You're a PTA president. I was like, no, I'm getting a GoFundMe going. I'm like an immediate,
Yeah.
I'm like, fix the problem.
Oh, trust me.
Yeah, but whatever you guys need, I'm happy to push and explain or give the homeschool parents my perspective on why it's important to, if there's any pushback, I guess you could say, I'm happy to fill that void. I don't think we will, but I just want to make that clear.
Not from elementary.
No, I
Middle
don't think
school,
so.
like I said, it's a whole nother beast. But we'll let that one be, and we'll only ask if we absolutely have to. That's kind of my take on middle school.
And I want to apologize again for, go ahead, Hannah, sorry.
Oh. Tomlinson's PTA meeting was this morning.
Yeah.
And
I just have to jump off really quick.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Stephanie.
Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Thank you.
And I only have sixth graders, so my experience is what elementary school was like, and then now middle school. And I say my piece at the end of the meeting, so I have to sit there listening to all the rest of it. My favorite part is the talk from the principal, and then the rest of it, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm listening, sort of.
Mhm.
But oh my God, the ridiculousness, I was just blown away. I'm like, I can't be involved in this. Not really arguing, but starting to get annoyed with each other about nominating committees and this and that. And half of it I don't even understand. But I was like, okay, this isn't for me. I just want to tell you what the RLA is doing, and then I gotta go.
Yeah.
It's totally different animal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. So like I said, I think elementary school is really a safe place to kind of do this. And I think the parents there have been really, at least our parent, like I said, we've been very clear with the culture of this to our community from day one. And I think that does set a tone. And the more that we can help, like I said, I have people that are like, wait, you're doing what with the what? I'm like, no, it's important. You can't just have an RLA committee with just RLA parents. That's silly to me. You guys are a part of the whole community. So whatever you need, I'm happy to advocate or yell or whatever.
Well, I think as long as the T-shirt thing, if we can get that done, especially with parents sponsoring it, and then not having to tap into money, and if we have extra from elementary, I think that is perfect. And maybe even if we have a bunch of take up on that, we could get, money to fund the gift certificate, $20 for
Yeah,
each
yeah, yeah,
middle
yeah.
school. Like, I think, I have a feeling if we can get elementary on board and going, we can take care of
It'll
middle
be fun.
school. Yeah.
I was gonna say too, it might be a good idea, and I should have said this when Steve was here, to get a count of how many fifth graders you have.
Okay. I
I
will
don't know
ask.
why. I feel like fifth grade and eighth grade graduation just make me nervous. And I just to keep count of like where those kids are in terms of like is the RLA doing something? Are they all relaxed? Just as you talk about that April meetings, those really are what PTAs are starting to gear up for, is teacher appreciation, graduate, because those are really the only events that most people are. I mean, we're not running enrichment or anything like that.
Yeah. I know,
So-
that's why I tried to
Popped in my
on
head.
it super early.
Mhm.
I know people are like, it's in May. I'm like, it doesn't matter. We don't have any money.
Dude.
And we can't get it. So let's figure out fast. And I know
Yeah.
Steve is on top of that. Like he and I have had a
Yes.
couple conversations even this week. And
Yes.
he's on top of it, really trying
He's so
to
on the
figure out.
ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
And like I
that
said, we're on the ball to have our list. I'm just curious if every other school is doing what like certain schools are doing. I don't know. So I just want to make sure we're all clarified.
1 or 2 fifth graders in RLA. So
Yeah, I think we have more than that. So yeah, like as it gets
I'll ask.
closer, just remind me, because it's another thing that keeps popping in the back of my head.
yep. And then
I'm so worried about these little transitioning babies. It's so hard. Like my kids were preschoolers to kindergartners this year, and even for them in building, it's been a year. So
Yeah.
the more we can kind of help these transitioning kids on all fronts, I think is helpful.
Yeah. Well, I know my kindergartner, whenever she goes into the building, whenever that is, it's going to be. And I'm like, kid, you've been there since you were in a car seat like a baby. Like you've been there.
My kindergartners, this is funny, ate lunch for the first time at school, and they came home, they were like, Mom, we ate in that room with the pancakes. I was like, with the pancakes? What? I was like, oh, the only time they've been in there is for pancake breakfast.
Yeah.
Like for Thanksgiving. I was like, oh, those poor things.
Yeah, I know.
No,
Right?
so I think it'll be a lot of that as this goes on. Those like firsts are really firsts.
Oh yeah. Oh,
All
yeah.
right, ladies. Well, thank you so much. And Rachel, I'll get you the recording of this tomorrow.
Fantastic. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
All right,
Night, ladies.
guys. Good night.